Hello, aka members and friends. My name is Stacy Gaffin, and I'm a proud aka board member. I'm also an adoptive mom and the founder of Yes We Adopt. I want to come to you today with some thoughts on this month's theme, April's theme of secrecy, shame, and guilt, and give you some perspective of what I feel about secrecy, shame, and guilt. I don't believe in it for all parts of constellation, but also a matter of some ways to kind of avoid it. So, first things first, when it comes to secrecy, I am not a fan of keeping secrets from adopted, fostered, or cared for persons because one of two things that we know for sure. It's that cared for person's truth and their story, and they have the right to know it in full. I do believe there's certain ages and stages of how we share a cared for person's story, but from the very beginning, they should know their origin story. Number two, by knowing their origin story, we're creating a brave space to not just be a courageous, not the parent from that perspective, but also just being a brave space that person also asks questions back in return. When we open the door or showing a pathway to truth, to love, and to healing, we're giving permission to other people to do the same. So no secrecy by telling stories early and often. Of course, ages and stages, but there should be no late discovery adoptees because we should know better, we do better. As my 94-year-old grandma said, you know better, you do better. Number two, when it comes to families that look alike, we sometimes feel like, oh, we don't have to tell anybody anything. We can kind of keep it to ourselves. And it's like, they don't need to know, but they do need to know. Back to point one, that's their right to know their story. Okay? So, number two, when I think about love, so love is enough. I don't think it's enough if we're not doing it with courage, showing courage in action. I think love is a form of courage in action. And with that, when we're not telling stories, telling the truth early and often, where we're trying to hide things, who are we hiding it for? Or do we show love by hiding from our loved ones and our cared for loved ones? Or do we tell them the truth? That's hard. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it is hard. But we're at least telling them so they can then walk alongside them to really help them in their journey of healing and truth. In addition to that one, this is a lifelong conversation. I know one, like, oh, you're adopted or you're cared for, whatever, and that's it. This is a lifelong conversation that you need to help facilitate. I'm not saying every day saying you're adopted, but I do believe it's very important to at least let folks know that I see you, I hear you, I want you to know your truth, and I'm standing beside you in this journey. Okay? I also believe in terms of shame and guilt. Last year at our AKA 2024 conference, we had one of our presenters that talked about shame and guilt. This was Hina Khan. She's a licensed professional counselor supervisor and registered play therapist supervisor. And Hina talked about, yes, I'm having my notes here, there is shame and guilt in all parts of the constellation. For adopted persons, it could be simply shame of not knowing they're good enough for their birth parent to keep them, guilt over their behavior, guilt over loving both birth first, natural, and adoptive family members. For birth first or natural parents, the shame of the circumstances, how it came to be. How did we come to be in terms of the need to, or the circumstances where a child's removed from the family. The shame of not being able to keep their child. And in cases of involuntary relinquishment, the shame of not meeting the court plan to unify their child. So again, there's shame in those first two roles. And last but not least, the adoptive parent, the guilt or shame over parenting someone else's child, the guilt over frustration, anger at the child's behavior, possible shame at inability to conceive from infertility issues or challenges, shame over negative feelings about child or birth family, and then the guilt of not being able to adequately prevent child's ongoing loss and emotional pain, things that we can't control. But we can control how we, A, address it. We're going to be brave by addressing it, but also B, how do we move forward in healing and whole for all folks that are impacted? So, simply put, secrecy, shame, and guilt have no place in the adoption and cared for person stories because we need to be able to show love in action by being courageous and telling folks their story early and often. There's no place for shame and guilt because of the fact that we are doing, ideally, we're doing the best we can for caring for folks. But again, holding them in support, holding them in love, hold them in truth, so they can feel the feels and having the both and effect. But we have to do better in this space. So my 2 cents. Hope you like it, and there's more blogs and vlogs to come. Take care.